Okay, so in the last few days, Israel has been under siege by protests going on in Tel Aviv. Now, this all stems from some news recently that came out involving 6 hostages that were found dead in Gaza. So we have this article from Al Jazeera. Israel's military has announced that its troops have recovered the bodies of 6 captives, including a dual U.S. national, from a tunnel in southern Gaza as it continued its 11-month deadly assault on the Gaza enclave. More than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed since Israel launched war on Gaza on October 7 following an attack led by the Palestinian group Hamas that left more than 1,100 people dead. Palestinian fighters took about 250 captives in the wake of the attack. The coastal enclave has since been turned into rubble and non-stop bombardment as Israel has been accused of stalling a ceasefire deal to free the captives. Military said on Sunday that the remains were recovered from an underground tunnel in the Rafah area and returned to Israel where they were formally identified. And because of this, there have been mass protests in Israel as tens of thousands of Israelis have hit the street demanding a ceasefire deal, mostly because they believe, correctly so, that that Benjamin Netanyahu is stalling the ceasefire. Like, they are fully aware that, ceasefire deals are not going through mostly because of him. Now, recently, Hamas did reject a ceasefire deal, but it wasn't really a ceasefire deal as much as it was, okay, you give us the hostages and then we just keep bombing you. Like, it wasn't a true ceasefire. It was a ceasefire in name only. This is pretty surprising because, honestly, support for Netanyahu and the Israeli government to continue their bombardment of Palestinians has been popular in Israel. But I think because of all the amount of hostages that are, dying as a result of this, that are being killed because of Israel's bombardment, I think people just have enough of it. Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to settle the score with Hamas, saying we will hunt you down. Like, dude, there's way more likely of a chance that they were killed because of you. And he's just like, we'll hunt you down. Those who kill hostages do not want an agreement. I mean, even if these 6 specific people, even though it's way more than likely that they were killed from the result of Israel bombing Gaza, even if they specifically, like these 6 specific people weren't killed as a result of those bombs, there are still plenty of people who have. There are still plenty of hostages who have been killed because of Israel's bombardment of Gaza. And yeah, this resulted in a huge protest Sunday night. I believe they blocked off the main highway of Tel Aviv in, it's like the tens of thousands. It's a big deal, obviously. I have a feeling that this more than likely won't result in him really doing anything. I think he's literally just biding time because once this is all over, and also once he has to step down as prime minister, he's going to be facing a lot of criminal charges. So I think he's just trying to prolong the inevitable, or just waiting for Trump to get in office, because he probably hopes for him to win, so that he can do even more in terms of bombing Palestinians without really caring all that much for his own citizens as well. Even, this is also not just a rare case. There's also plenty of Israeli media that's been turning on Netanyahu and really, going after him, which is pretty surprising, especially when you compare it to, the Western, the U.S. framing of this. And we'll watch this CNN video to really show what exactly I'm talking about when I say that. Also, Biden has been saying that Netanyahu is not doing enough to reach a ceasefire, despite the fact that he continues to allow arms to be shipped over to Israel. So, maybe if, he's actively stalling a ceasefire and you are aware of that and you are literally saying that he is not doing enough to reach a ceasefire deal, maybe stop arming him. Maybe punish him for doing things that don't align with what the U.S. government wants. That's the kid. It's just so fucking stupid. It's obviously him just trying to play face because he knows this is a terrible look. It just really shows how fucking weak we are, that our own attack dog in the region, that being of Israel, just we don't put any restrictions on them, even when we actively say hey, you're doing something bad.
The crowd is trying to make it clear, trying to make their protests clear, and trying to get themselves heard by the Prime Minister, Alex.
Nick, these scenes are certainly something that Hamas would like to see, these deep divisions among the Israeli government and the Israeli people. But this anger from the Israelis towards Netanyahu has been on full display for months. We've all been in those protests, but as you were saying, Nick,
It's like, fucking, what are you doing? Like, imagine talking about the Israeli population and being like, you know, like a group of people who have been, for the most part, in support of Netanyahu's bombardment on Palestinians, you know, the genocide of Palestinians, and then try to make what is solely just them being like, hey, work on a ceasefire deal because, you know, hostages are being killed, more than likely from the bombs that we are dropping on them. We need to, like, make a ceasefire deal. We're tired of you stalling it. It's obviously you who is the problem when it comes to this. Especially when, like, Israel killed the key negotiator for Hamas not that long ago, the one who was bombed in Iran. Like, they're obviously trying to make efforts to make this process as uneasy as they can be. And the Israeli people know that, so they're just letting their voices be heard, even though they do ultimately support what Netanyahu is doing to Palestinians. They just don't want their hostages to be killed. But then trying to turn around and be like, oh no, this is all Hamas. This is Hamas's plan. I bet they're just loving it. No. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, you are essentially giving Benjamin Netanyahu talking points, like the Israeli government talking points of being like, yes, our population is compromised by Hamas. They just try so fucking hard to make Hamas seem like this big bad guy when all they are is a resistant group. That's it. They don't have millions of dollars to fund tens of thousands of people to go out and protest what Netanyahu is doing. Like, what the fuck? I don't fucking know. It's like with the fucking student protests too that happened not that long ago, and I believe they're starting back up now that college is starting back up. Like the university protests, like the ones at Columbia, where everyone with, like, the media was literally like, oh, these are Iran Hamas-backed groups. That's what they're just young people who are trying to, you know, fight for what they believe in and protest for what they believe in. It's just so fucking stupid to make it out like everything's a secret fucking psyop. You're sounding like Fox fucking News when you're doing this. You're sounding like fucking InfoWars, where you're just like, it's all a psyop. Hamas is controlling these people.
Nick, this may be the biggest series of protests that we have seen yet, coming on the heels of this horrific news of these 6 hostages who were killed. What are the people out there telling you in terms of why they believe that their prime minister has not agreed to a deal or not done enough to reach a deal that would bring the hostages home?
People here believe that the Prime Minister is looking out for his own political career and future, because if the war ends, if there's a deal and the war ends, he could find himself out of job as Prime Minister. If there was an election, he probably, or his coalition probably, wouldn't be re-elected.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like before, you know, Israel's attack in Gaza, he was not popular. I would argue, like, he was probably, like, the Israeli population definitely support what's going on in Gaza, the genocide. But they don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. If it was anyone else, honestly, nothing on Gaza would probably change all that much. But still, like, they would just support him more. They would just support the other person more. Like, Benjamin Netanyahu, in of itself, like, away from what's going on, like the current situation, is not a popular figure. They just like the idea of Palestinians being bombed.
Elected, and if he was no longer Prime Minister, then he would face a number of criminal charges that are stacked up against him and pending. He can't be charged, and those cases can't go forward while he's Prime Minister. So people believe that he is holding on, not just as he says, because he thinks this is the best way to defeat Hamas, but because it's his own political career that's at stake. Those are the charges that many people believe and level against the Prime Minister. And certainly Yahya Sinwar of Hamas absolutely studies the political situation in Israel. He spent many years learning Hebrew while he was in jail, studying how the politics here works, looking at where divisions are, and is trying to...
Like, imagine covering this, being like, no, Benjamin Netanyahu is obviously just trying to hold political power for as long as he can. That's why he's stalling the deal. But also being like, no, this is a master plan of Yahya Sinwar. This is his ultimate master plan. He's controlling the masses. Like, you're trying to make this person out to be like this big bad evil cartoon villain who's just standing behind a desk, playing, just scheming and masterminding, when the person who is getting protest against Benjamin Netanyahu is that person. Like, that's what he is. It's just so, like, it feels like they just have this fucking caveat, like this little rule at CNN where they're just like, anytime you say something bad about Israel, you also have to make Hamas look like this cartoonishly bad guy group, like they're fucking Cobra from G.I. Joe.
Exploit those divisions. He sees the potential to create discord. He sees the moments where...
Okay, how is he doing that? How is he doing that? Do you think he went to every single one of these protesters' house and was just like, yo, you gotta do this? Yo, me, the guy that you like hate, that you really hate, that you are in approval of bombing. Yo, can you do this for me real quick? Can you do me this favor? It's just such dumb fucking logic. It's them going, like, bending backwards just to fucking just try to ease the blow for Israel and just make this out to what it's not.
Try to use the people of Israel's pressure on the Prime Minister. This is a Hamas tactic. It appears that by killing these hostages, he is trying to do that. If you will, in the vernacular, the card that he has played here, or the
Okay, so their whole thing is that Hamas killed these hostages. Again, we don't know the specifics of how they were killed. But then again, I don't think that the people of Israel necessarily care how these hostages died. Like, at the end of the day, they still want a ceasefire deal done. And historically, for the most part, during this whole, these talks for ceasefire, Israel has been the one holding out. Yeah, Hamas, again, like I mentioned earlier, Hamas did reject a deal recently, but it was one that did not end the ceasefire. Like, it was only ceasefire in name only. It was essentially just give us the hostages and then we'll continue bombing you. Like, even if you are bloodthirsty for bombing, a different group of people, you would obviously see how they wouldn't agree to that. Like, anyone would look at that and be like, this isn't anything at all. It's where one side wins and the other side still loses. That's not a deal.
He has spent down on his bank balance, if you will, of hostages that he has still alive in reserve, is to send not just a political signal that is not going to negotiate, but to try to undermine the position of the Prime Minister here.
Jesus Christ, they are just sucking him off. Like, even Israeli media itself has been very critical of Benjamin Netanyahu through this. They're just like, what the fuck is he doing? He needs to get this deal done. But CNN just won't stop doing tricks on it. They won't stop slobbing out that fucking knob. Benjamin Netanyahu. That was great. Yeah, I think that's all we're going to cover for today. This is still something that's going on, still breaking. But usually I record most of my news stuff on Saturday, and this, was happening on Sunday, was kind of breaking at the time. So I figured we might as well just cover it now, and I'll probably do a follow-up later. We'll see. Depends on how many, breaking news. I know Netanyahu has spoken about this, but it ain't looking great. So yeah, that's all I gotta say on the matter.